Hey, this is David for Big Bits. In this video, we're going to take a look at tuples on TradingView in Pine Script. And if you're not familiar, tuples are essentially just a predefined series of data or different data types that you're going to be working with as if they were kind of like a single object. And this probably is very confusing for those of you who are not programmers, but if you are a more experienced programmer, you might have already worked with tuples, or you might consider this kind of like a list of data, but it's basically a preset array, but the array can contain different objects. So let's go back to the article that they give you here. And here's their definition. Tuple is an unchangeable sequence of values. Now, in their case, what we're doing here is they are saving these float values, and I'll explain what this means. And they are using these values in the security call to go back and plot the data on the chart. So now what the update is that TradingView has done for tuples that I'm showing you here is they've made it available within the security function. Now, tuples have been a part of Pine for a little while, but having it in the security function is relatively new, and I'll show you how that works here in just a moment. Now, if you're curious about tuples and how this actually kind of works, you can go back and look at the Pine Script reference or the user manual here for V4. And it'll give you a little bit more information, but usually the best way to learn on this type of thing is to actually look at some examples. Now, this is the exact code copied from this page here, and I'll show you kind of how this actually works. So if you haven't done the Pine Script tutorial series, that's probably a good point to start at so you can kind of understand what's going on here, but I'm going to explain it to you here as best I can. It'll make more sense if you went through the Pine Script tutorial series though. So I'm going to zoom into the chart. We're on a 4-hour chart, and with this script we are plotting the OHLC 4 for the daily on this particular chart. So even though we're looking at the 4-hour, the line is based on the daily values. Now, the first thing that we do here is we create a function that is just going to return the open and the high values in a tuple. So we're actually going to use this function to set our open and our high values, our O and H variables in this tuple. So we'll call the security function for this ticker using the daily resolution, and then the value we want that to be produced from this function, and that function is going to just return the open and high in a tuple, and that tuple is going to be assigned to these variables here. So now our variables O and H in that tuple are open and high. Now the same thing is done for the L and C, the low and the close, except you can see it's explicitly writing out the tuple here for the low and the close. But the thing that you need to pay attention to for the function here is that they are kind of trying to stress that you can actually use a function here, and instead of just actually doing explicit definitions here, you can actually create your function and do some math and also return those as well. So that's something to be aware of, and I'll show you a little bit about that more later. But as you can see, these can be accessed individually. You don't have to do the brackets and extract the particular letter in a certain way. You can just reference the actual letter or the name of the variable, and it will access it like it would any other data type before. So the tuples are just good ways to extract data all at once, and I'll give you a good example of that here in just a moment. So yeah, once again, this is just the OHLC 4 for the daily on the 4-hour chart, and we're actually going to do a little bit more than that. I'll show you how those functions can be useful. Now, the first thing I want to show you is using the functions. You can actually use some of the built-in functions. And of course, there would be an issue. I forgot to update that variable name. Let me save that again. My apologies. Okay, so what you're seeing here is you're seeing this 50 period moving average on the daily chart, and you're seeing this yellow 200 period moving average on the chart. Let me change that to red so it kind of matches my normal color scheme for my moving averages. And we use the same security call using the current ticker but on the daily chart. But for the tuple, we are actually using a function in each of those particular assignments for the tuple. So the first one we are going to call the built-in simple moving average function using the closing price on the daily for 50 periods back, and that's giving us our 50 period simple moving average on the daily chart. And the same thing for the second one, except that's the 200-day moving average. So that's one way to utilize these tuples. And you're probably thinking, well, you know, I can do this anyway. What is the benefit of actually doing it like this? And the way that I would probably see myself using this, at least in a more obvious way, is similar to what we just did. I have a script called the fancy triple moving averages, and that is what I would probably use it for, would be to extract the value for all of those in one line of code, as opposed to doing 3 different security calls for each of these. I would be able to do it with just one line of code now, but you can see that the tuple now has 3 values being set at once as opposed to just the 2, and that should demonstrate that you can actually use any series value. I'm not sure if there's a limit on this or not. I haven't tested it out beyond the 3 here because that's all I needed, but you can see this based on my triple moving averages that I did in that indicator. I've tried to have the colors match, and we did the same security call. We have one security call here for the 50, 100, and the 200-day moving average on the 4-hour chart. Now, if we switch this out to the daily chart, the lines look a lot smoother because they're actually designed for this resolution, and you can see that the values should match up pretty well. So yeah, that's pretty much all there is for tuples right now. If you have any questions about tuples, please leave a comment. Otherwise, hopefully this can help you a little bit with sort of minimizing your code. It doesn't necessarily have to be written like this. If it's easier for you to write your code the way we have been doing it in the tutorial series, that's completely fine. You can do it like that as well. In fact, I'll let you see that particular indicator and show you just kind of the differences up front. So this is the fancy triple moving average indicator that I created. Let me go ahead and set these to the 1-day resolution so everything kind of lines up with the one that we just did. Okay, so you can see that our lines overlap because these are also on the 1-day resolution with the same periods with the simple moving average, which is what you should expect. And what's really great is we confirmed that using the single security call here has the exact same values as what we had on the existing indicator, which actually worked, which should show you that the security call works really well with those functions within that particular security function. That was a lot to say all at once, but I'll take you into the code here and show you really the difference. You'll notice there's one line of code here which sets the first moving average there. Now I have a function for the ticker ID and the resolution there, but I also had a function that returned that MA value. And if I wanted to convert this into a tuple, and I'm not going to actually save this, what I could do is actually do this, set all 3 of my variables like that, and I would want to copy this function, and we will turn this into a tuple. Now, in order to actually do this, I'll have to update the second set to make sure it says it's working with MA2, and the third set to make sure it's working with MA3. So hopefully you can see kind of how you could do this with just one line of code now. Now this may be pretty confusing, which is why I didn't do it in the tutorial series or really talk about it too much now, but hopefully you can kind of understand what's actually going on with tuples and actually how to use them just a little bit. But that's all for this video. If you like the video, please leave a like, and if you like these types of videos or you're interested in the Pine Script tutorials, please subscribe, because we're going to be going over videos like this and other information with TradingView that could help you as well. But other than that, thanks and have a great day.